Well, yeah, cloud computing, typically is seen as, shared IT services, in the sense that you get those services on demand, they're elastic, you pay for them per minute if you want, or depending on how you sign your contract with your cloud provider. And it's really across the whole IT spectrum, from infrastructure to platform, development platforms and so on, to a software service, to even business services. Cloud means a lot to a lot of people, and it certainly can be quite expansive. And then how cloud then serves as a platform for other things like the Internet of Things, and how that creates new business models, is cloud. Obviously, I can go on for some time, but I'm just trying to keep the definition brief at this point.
So, to give us some context, Anaplan commercially launched just over 4 years ago, and we've acquired 500 customers in that time. So one of the fastest software as a service companies, up there amongst the fastest ever. What we're seeing, and I mentioned this morning, is that this idea of religion or ideology about how you deploy IT systems and services is really starting to go away. It's more about thinking from a customer perspective. So if you're an IT leader today, your customers are the business folks, running the company, right? From the CEO through to the lines of business leaders. What are the services from a technology perspective that these folks need to get their job done and to achieve the vision of the company over the long term? So that's the starting point. I think that, we discussed this morning, that ultimately the choice of whether those technology services are deployed from a cloud vendor, like a software as a service company, or deployed a software system that can be deployed in-house, but you might choose to put it in a hosting center. Those are things that are a later discussion. So what we're seeing with leaders is, what are the services that our customer needs? They're not bringing a religious point of view to whether it's on-prem or off-prem at this point in time. So that, yeah.
You also mentioned something, quite a revolutionary idea, is that CIOs are not really the IT people anymore, are more business-oriented.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of scary if IT is run by business people.
Well, you're just starting to see that I don't have a ready example, but I think Bernie mentioned that the CIO at Cisco is a very business-oriented person. They're strategists, right? And I think every CEO of a major company today realizes that technology is a fundamental part of their vision, right? In this digital age in particular. So the CIO is becoming increasingly important to that CEO. And they're looking at it from a point of view that we have this massive palette of options now available to us. So they're looking, of course, at their systems of record, but increasingly they're looking at systems of innovation. And our point of view at Anaplan is that the vast majority of innovation is coming from software as a service vendors. So
and if I may add to that, I think consumption-based pricing is also becoming an important consideration to move to cloud for CEOs.
Thierry, you mentioned earlier that about the different steps in that transition to that transformation. So perhaps
absolutely. And to get back to your point, Jean-Baptiste, I think you need to Uberize before you get Kodak, right? And that was a quote from our chief digital officer at Hub 16 in San Francisco a couple of weeks ago that I really liked, right? And it's all about insight-driven organizations. It's all about driving a competitive advantage in the market, right? And the way to do that is really to develop a strategy around insight, being able to ask the right questions. And Christian, you mentioned culture. Culture is a key enabler to that, but it's also about changing the business processes within the organizations. Make sure you get the right people. What we call purple people actually is key, right? It's about people who have actually a technical skill set as well as a business understanding the business and the organization, right? And this kind of capabilities, you don't have many people in the market who have actually this knowledge. But it's also about data quality, data profiling, data integration, and making sure that you have the right governance in place. And this transition from strategy, having a long-term view, 3 to 5 years, understanding from an organizational perspective where you want to go, but also enabling this transition in the short term.
With more and more disruptive technologies leveraging the cloud, Christian, you mentioned mobile, artificial intelligence. There's also VR, virtual reality, AR, augmented reality, IoT. So how do you see the cloud driving innovation? Is the cloud actually accelerating even innovation?
Well, I definitely think so, and I see it on different levels. One of the levels I feel, so I agree with your points, particularly kind of within organizations, and I think an interesting thing we'll also see more and more is probably the role it takes, like in mergers and acquisitions, like particularly, when you have larger companies acquiring smaller companies, being then kind of easily integrated, the different, the different systems, processes, and so on, and particularly also, when you look at everything from, we talked about the kind of home experience earlier, we talked about the company experiences and everything else, and I think everything that somehow has different players involved and that somehow has different approaches involved is most probably facilitated by something that acts as a platform to facilitate that. And I think for me the cloud is much more than something where one organization says I have something from there, but for me the cloud is kind of this sandbox of like a lot of players playing in there and trying to figure out at the moment, how do we work best? Like, do we kind of like as Cisco, do we work with Ericsson on this, or do we work with and so, and then like really trying to understand like how do we then leverage the cloud for this to make that easier. So I think the clouds with all this kind of like security risks and kind of dependencies definitely could accelerate this.
From my perspective, I think there are two levels in terms of cloud adoption. One is companies who don't have a vision and a strategy in place, and we do the same thing that they are doing on premise and put that in the cloud. That is not driving innovation. I think companies, organizations have the opportunity to really look at innovation, leverage cloud to drive this innovation. And if you look at Anaplan as a company and what they are doing in that space is phenomenal, right? And it's really, how do you adopt cloud, but looking at it from a different lens with an innovation hat, right? And it's all about changing the business model, as Christian was saying. It's all about co-innovation. It's co-innovating with partners. It's co-innovating with customers to drive innovation. And what we did recently, we collaborated and co-innovated with one of our clients in New Zealand around manufacturing. And we developed an app in Anaplan actually around inventory optimization. And that for me is a unique opportunity to rethink about cloud, and doing things differently.
It's fundamental to our business. Again, I go back to economics. You have hundreds of billions of dollars being put into software as a service companies, okay, around the world. I'll talk from an applications perspective. Silicon Valley investors and other investors around the world are simply not going to invest in companies like us and allow security to be a massive obstacle and impediment to us achieving the value that we can. So we lead on security today. One of the very first meetings that we will have, we invite the IT security evaluation team to the first meeting. Now that wasn't the case 2 years ago, right? And in this industry, which I've been in for a while, salespeople try to dodge that conversation as much as they can until the very end of the procurement process. Today, it's complete opposite for companies like Anaplan because we contend that we are more secure than on-premise technology. Bernie, Cisco being a super high-tech company that's actually involved in this whole world, this organization and others put Anaplan through the most rigorous tests. And at the end of that process, Morgan Stanley, Barclays Bank, they put us through such intense scrutiny At the end of that, they said, actually, you guys, we would like to partner with you to continue to innovate with you on security. So later this year, we're doing releasing a bring your own key technology, which enables the customers to manage encryption. We encrypt at rest and in transit ourselves, right? But we own the keys for that. Customers now are going to be able to manage their own keys. It's literally a physical device. It's pretty cool stuff. So for us, it's just an illustration of where we're innovating, and our customers are partnering with us. They're joining our security advisory board to do that because they're saying, this is immutable. We have to go there. We want to help you be the best at security in the world.
And that's where the cloud provider, the broker platform also comes in to provide that integration of different instances of cloud, whether you have it in public cloud or SaaS, and you layer security on top of that service layer management. And you also do your data integration using the cloud broker platform. Where does your data sit? How do you do data backup? How do you move data from public cloud to private or vice versa? What data do you retain? And if you look at some of the best practices Accenture would follow with our clients, so I'll take example of AWS. So they would have certain native controls on their platform. But Accenture would come in and partner with them to further do a security assessment and layer more security best practices on top of the cloud platform. So that's true for the ecosystem, right? You drive that security assessment across the ecosystem of cloud providers.
And certainly the network plays a big part in that. And you know, for those of you who I know there's a lot of telcos here and who feel that innovation in the network is all on the software. There's plenty of innovation left on the hardware side also. And it comes down to things like security, like performance, both within, if you want, the cloud, but also connecting up that continuum from your on-premise data center all the way out to the edge. And I just want to come back to a point because it's related to the CIO becoming more a business person. What we're seeing also is the CEO becoming more of a technology person, because understanding the technology, a bit like Christian said, I think it was one of your 5 pillars, technology, if I remember correctly, and technology is becoming an integral part of most businesses. And so CEOs need to understand technology and how that technology is going to help transform their business. And then on the security side, and to a certain degree to performance, comes down to mitigating risk, right? Is this technology, cloud that I'm adopting, is that increasing my risk profile, or actually am I able to decrease my risk profile as part of it? So as a business person, you need to understand that and how that fits in.